TGCRequiem here with Modern Deck Tech, Mardu Pyromancer. This is a deck that's been doing really well in Magic Online. Handful of players, specifically Self-Basic, have been putting up a lot of results with it. Jerry Thompson actually just made top 8 with a list similar to this of the Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan, so thought we'd give it a spin, see how it works out. Jerry Thompson's deck list is not out there as of the moment I'm recording this, but I was able to pick up that compared to most of the lists that I'd seen Self-Basic running. There are collective brutalities in Jerry Thompson's list, and it does not seem like there are Monastery Swiftspears, which is something that Self-Basic plays. My assumption is the Monastery Swiftspears are more for like the Tron type matchups where you just need to try and get a little extra beat down early. And then, Jerry Thompson's build seems to be more focused on the grindier, just kind of having a lot of variety of really good cards in different styles. So I don't know which one's better. I can't really guide you in that decision, but hopefully we can give you an idea of what the deck looks like, how it plays, and help you determine if it's something you want to play. So the benefit of this deck, or the cool thing, it grinds really well, and almost all the cards are just good in and of themselves at all situations, or most situations. So hand disruption, not a whole lot, to have to say there. Pretty much, hand disruption, just always a good proactive way to fight your opponent. And in a deck like this that's a little bit slower, it makes a lot of sense to have like your Inquisitions and Thought Seizes to buy you time to get your kind of engine set up, so to speak. The engine in this deck being Young Pyromancer, which gives you a 1/1 red element. Wow, a 1/1 red elemental token creature whenever you cast an instant or sorcery. Lingering Souls, not so much an engine per se, but you can cast 2/1/1 white spirit tokens, and you get with flying, and it has flashback. So both of this and Faithless Looting pair well with Young Pyromancer to create tokens. Faithless Looting also kind of pairs well with Lingering Souls, and Faithless Looting just gets a lot of cards in your graveyard, which helps feed Bedlam Reveler, which is a 6 red creature, 3/4 with prowess, but when it enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards, and it costs 1 less to cast for each instant or sorcery in your graveyard. So, the Faithless Lootings help speed up how quickly you get your Bedlam Revelers out. They create tokens with Young Pyromancer. They help get Lingering Souls in the graveyard, which you can then cast for 1 black, which then also create tokens with Young Pyromancer. Eventually you get enough cards in the graveyard relatively quickly that you're able to then cast a Bedlam Reveler, kind of refill your hand and create the cycle, and then you're just trying to win off tokens that way. So historically not my favorite strategies. I undervalue tokens. I prefer stronger cards individually, but certainly doesn't discount the fact that this deck is solid and putting up good results. So how else it supports this is basically just by, again, playing good cards. So Lightning Bolt can be a removal spell, can do damage, again, can create elemental tokens, can reduce the cost of your Reveler. Fork Bolt, similar to Lightning Bolt, except it does give you some extra game against go wide decks that have creatures with lower toughness. Burst Lightning, just another burn spell that you have the potential to kick for a couple extra points of damage. Collective Brutality can drain your opponent of life, but also acts as like your 7th or your 8th and 9th Inquisition or Thoughtseize, being able to take instants and sorceries from your opponent's hand. Also another kill spell. So pretty good all-around cards here supporting the Young Pyromancer. Collective Brutality you can also use to pitch a Lingering Souls, so that you don't lose as much value on the discard. And then a Dreadbore for like the one-off Planeswalkers, Terminates for the creatures. Dreadbore obviously sorcery speed allows it to get the Planeswalker. And then Kolaghan's Command, just a really good card in a lot of matchups. And one of the things here is, you're just kind of playing all these I don't want to call them average, like they're good cards, but you're just playing all these kind of situationally good cards. Not situationally good. They're like good in all situations, but you know they're almost like charms, right? Like there are stronger for the most part. I mean, lightning bolt's hard to say that there's cards that are a lot stronger than lightning bolt. Certainly, fatal push might be better against some decks than others, but it's a phenomenal card. Um, but again, like if you think of like a burst lightning or a forked bolt, you know they are decent cards. Worst case, you can just throw them at your opponent's face, but they also sometimes are good removal, so they kind of feel like charms a little bit. Kolaghan's Command kind of fits in that as well. You get multiple options on what you can do. Some matchups it's just too slow, not good enough, but rarely is it a dead card because you have the ability to do a lot of things. Obviously, with Kolaghan's Command, you can return a creature from your graveyard to hand, make your opponent discard a card, destroy a target artifact, or do 2 damage to target opponent or creature. So the big thing here is, again, this helps loop those Bedlam Revelers when they die to help you draw 3, rinse and repeat the process. And then finally, a couple Blood Moons in the deck. Basically, this deck is black-red. This is just a Rakdos deck. There are 4 Lingering Souls, but you're not trying to cast it off white all that often, and so there's white source in the deck. Mostly just black mana sources, black and red mana sources. Plenty of mountains and swamps to fetch for. That way, the decks you need Blood Moon, you certainly can. As to the sideboard, when you really need that aggressive, or the removal for the aggressive strategies, you can bring in a couple Fatal Pushes, a Collective Brutality, just kind of helps in those generically like the Coco decks, anything you want to go after, a big spell like Titan Shift, or you want to get Escape Shift out of their hand, like that. Burn. This deck does seem like it's a little weak to burn, probably. It seems a little slow. And this is probably my biggest complaint of the deck in general, having not played it very much. But it seems a little slow. You have to grind a bit to get your wins, and you know that's certainly going to benefit somebody who's played the deck more or put a lot of time into it. But I do think, you know, again, these lower power card qualities, I struggle to figure out how this deck beats a Tron regularly, if at all. A deck like Titan Shift has got to be really difficult to win with. I mean, you pretty much have to get your Blood Moon sort of thing. Storms may be okay if you can get the removal spells at the right times, but point being is the deck is slow, and so like the really fast decks, you know, unless they're like you can kind of pick off 1 or 2 threats and that buys you a bunch of time, it feels like the deck itself is kind of too slow to closing, and so you really got to fight for your wins. Some people love that. Leyline of the Void. Storm is actually like one of the reasons I was going to run my heal spell bombs and just not put ley lines in because they cost a lot and you don't really run them for anything else. So I was able to borrow some from a friend though, because I do think that Leyline of the Void, like, you almost need something like this to be able to beat Storm. I would think Storm is basically going to be able to just go off, and even if just like creating tokens, you know, it's going to be pretty brutal. You need something that is going to like permanently put a stop on it. The deck is too slow to close quickly, and so you know, it gives them plenty of time to just sculpt the perfect sort of hand to beat you, even if they don't have a reducer in hand. So Leyline's great against the graveyard decks where you're really worried about the graveyard and you don't have the ability to close on your opponent. Against any sort of Goryo's Vengeance type deck. And really even against a deck like Death Shadow Grixis, you might want to bring a couple of these. And you can cast them. So the one benefit of this deck and the Leyline of the Void is, you know, with the 20 lands and the Faithless Lootings, you're going to be able to hard cast this. It's not only if you broken. Wear Tear. So this is destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, and you may fuse it to cast both. So again, just kind of broad hate for Infinity, Lantern, any sort of enchantments that you need to get rid of, ogles, whatever. And then Combo Console of Allocation. It is a legendary creature. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. I did actually record I did actually record one match before I did the deck tech, and unfortunately I did not realize it was legendary at the time. So it is legendary. That does matter. You can't double this up and drain and gain 4 life a turn, 1 at a time. But this is great against burn. This is a way to try and beat storm. Again, you don't really have ways to quickly beat your opponent. So if you can put this down against a spell heavy deck and they don't have a way to remove it, it's going to cost them. Shattering Spree, again, just fight artifacts, affinity, lantern, you name it. Ivy Needle, so this would be, you know, a potential hedge against like a Karn or an Oblivion Stone, you know, to try and buy yourself enough time to get there and beat your opponent, maybe against like a Liliana that's going to grind you down. Again, just any sort of problematic activated ability. And then Dragon's Claw, primarily for burn. For any aggro decks, you could actually bring it in because you do have a lot of red spells yourself. And so this is just kind of a way to help in those matchups where you need a little extra life. Gumball's not doing enough of that for you. So this is the deck. Again, the deck is really pretty fun. It's actually, you know, you feel like all your cards are always doing something. I will say, again, just from a handful of matches, you know, prior to recording, and then you know, the one I've recorded so far, it just seems a little slow. And again, this could just be that this is just not the right deck for me. Could be the right deck for you. But again, it's just very slow. You definitely feel like you're kind of in most of the games, but again, just tokens just don't appeal to me personally, but they may appeal to you. So we'll get some recordings up for it. Hopefully you enjoy. But I can't imagine that I'll get a ton of playing with this deck going forward. Have a good one.